After growing up in Arizona, I moved to Utah for university. The contrast of the towering mountains compared to the bleak Arizona landscape immediately caught my attention, and I was filled with an insatiable desire to know the mountains, to know their history and secrets, to see them in any season and any condition. I found a yearning to not just recreate occasionally, but to intimately know the mountains. I expected my newfound passion to be shared with my classmates, but quickly realized that I was the oddity. An overwhelming feeling would overtake me as I sat through lectures, looking out the window longingly. I would feel my feet start to bounce and my palms sweat as I stared at the jaw-dropping views outside. The thought would come, "You are wasting your time. The day is slipping away." And just like that, my professor would be mid-sentence and I'd be jogging out of the class to get home and put on my running shoes and scrounge whatever food I could grab. Class could wait, but the experience in the mountains could not. Over the last 3 years living in Utah, this obsession with the mountains has not dulled in the lightest. In 2024, I spent about 750 hours trail running in these local mountains. I set a lofty goal to climb 1 million feet of vertical gain last year, which I finished on December 21st. 1 million feet is equivalent to climbing Mount Everest 34 times from sea level and coming back down. It was a monstrous goal that made me nervous in January, but as I stayed consistent, the seemingly insurmountable goal became quite simple. I made sure to keep my reason for the goal at the forefront of my mind every day, and it helped keep me focused and consistent daily. This reason is that I want to be connected to the earth we live on. And the way that I feel the most connected specifically is by spending time getting up into the mountains. My reasons also shifted and changed the longer into the challenge I got. I began to be excited every day for the strangers that I would meet and connect with in the mountains. There is something special to me about sharing my passion for the mountains with another person. Being able to talk to these people and hear their stories made me inspired and motivated to keep going. You might be thinking, this all sounds great, but how did you have the time and money to spend chasing a seemingly simple passion? The answer is not very simple. I worked grave shifts during the first 8 months of the year, so I had time to run during the day. Then for the last 4 months, I didn't have a job while I focused on growing my social media and tried to start an experiential business where I could take people on adventures in the mountains and help them have the types of moving moments in nature that I have had. By the end of the year, I was left at a standstill with the business as I realized that the permitting process would take much longer than I realized, and my social media growth seemed to stagnate, no matter how hard I tried to approach it. My long goal to climb 1 million feet of vert doesn't have a fairy tale ending. It didn't magically make me rich or a professional athlete. I wouldn't even say that I got much smarter or more than a small margin better at running in the mountains. So what is the purpose of going through all the effort if the benefits seem intangible? The value I gained last year was in the process of chasing a passion. I have no end goal that will make spending time in the mountains worth it. I believe that anyone can find meaning and value in being consistent daily, chasing their passions. I'd even go as far as to say that by focusing on a certain result in the future, we can rob ourselves of the beauty and value of the everyday experience. Last year, I learned a very simple yet deeply important principle. Consistency is what creates greatness. A common misconception people might have is that there are certain people who can do great things because they have been born with special abilities. I have come to learn that this notion is incorrect and harmful. Of course, there are people who are naturally prone to be better at something than others, but people do great things because they have a belief that it can be done. Then they put in the months and years of consistency that it takes to achieve. The longest distance I ran last year was the Bear 100-mile race from Logan, Utah to Bear Lake, Idaho. I had heard plenty of stories from friends about how painful a 100-mile race would be, so I went into it with the mindset that I would run it once and be done with the 100-mile distance forever. Everyone told me that I'd go out too fast, so I went really slow for the first 10 miles. I hiked with my friends as we climbed. We watched the sunrise and laughed. I was filled with gratitude to be able to share such a memory with close friends. After the first 10 miles, the day started to heat up, and I made sure to keep myself wet at every river crossing. I had no concept of how fast I should be going or what place I was in. I was there to enjoy myself, and that's what I was doing. At mile 49, I started to get sick of my Rice Krispie treats and hoped for pizza. At mile 50, to my complete surprise, there were pizzas being cooked fresh to order on pizza ovens that had been brought out into the forest. I couldn't believe my eyes. I ate a pizza and a half before continuing on the journey. The heat of the day was replaced with the cool evening, and I worried about how my body and mind would react to trying to stay awake all night. I took it mile by mile, and soon enough we were down to one marathon left. At mile 85, at around 4 in the morning, there was an aid station with all sorts of delicious food. I sat down and ate as much as I could. At mile 90, I got a sudden boost of energy and climbed the 90th mile at a faster effort than I had done any mile earlier in the race. Then we descended down to Bear Lake and watched the sunrise for a second time. I cried on the 99th mile coming into the finish line. I couldn't believe the experience that I had just had. I had met so many people and seen so many beautiful things. At the end of it all I cared about was that I got my finisher medal. How ridiculous does that sound? That after experiencing all those things, that the only thing I would care about was the final result or prize. I'm joking when I say that I only cared about the medal, because that's actually what I cared the least about. It's quite obvious to see that the value of the 100-miler was in each of the individual miles along the way, and the experiences that were had. I think it's quite simple to see that without the miles in between, that getting a medal at the end has no meaning, but when it comes to life, things get a lot more convoluted. How many of us would love to have a lot of money, or a dream job, or the dream relationships, and skip the process it took to get there? But what's the point if there is no experience gained along the way? At the end of the day, that's all life is, a bunch of experiences made from the moments of daily life. A story that has stuck with me since I was a young kid was that of a time-traveling man. One day as a kid, he found a magical toy that when he pulled on its string, it would take him forward in time. Its warning read to be careful, as time couldn't be unwound. The boy was young and disregarded the warning. It was 30 minutes until dinner and he was hungry, so he pulled the string. Just like that, it was dinner and he was enjoying his meal. The next morning at school, he found himself wishing for summer, so he pulled the string and skipped the school year. Summer came and he enjoyed it for a couple days, but it started to get hot, so he pulled the string again for fall to come. He quickly realized that school was not enjoyable, so he pulled the string to graduation to be done for good. The man then met a girl and began dating her. He wished for them to be married, so he pulled the string and they were married. Then they wished for kids, so he pulled the string and they had kids. He quickly realized how difficult it was and wished for adult relationships with his children and pulled the string. That's when he realized that he was an old man. He had skipped his life away, hoping for something that would make life special or different. But at the end of his life, he realized that every day was what made his life special. One of my favorite ultramarathon inspirations is a man named Harvey Lewis. He started running at around 20 years old. He was not a natural runner. It took him several years to be an average marathoner at best, but that wasn't the point. Harvey was not running to be the best in the world. He was running because he believed in the process and made it a part of his daily routine. Now, nearly 30 years later, at the age of 47, Harvey became the best in the world at an ultramarathon race called the Backyard Ultra, where he ran 450 miles in 108 hours straight. When I heard about this feat, my mind nearly exploded. Harvey became the best in the world at the age of 47, when most people would assume that they are long past their prime. But Harvey showed that consistency in chasing a passion can make the impossible possible. The story of Harvey Lewis reminds me that we all have the potential to achieve great things, not because of some extraordinary talent we were born with, but because of consistency and the willingness to invest in the process day after day. And that's something we can all relate to. It doesn't matter if you're trying to run 100 miles, launching a business, or learning to play an instrument, or working to improve your relationships. It's all about showing up, putting in the work, and believing that each small step forward has value, even when the progress doesn't feel monumental. I want to share something else I learned last year. Passion isn't about having one big breakthrough moment. It's not about getting to some finish line, whether that's a specific goal, recognition, or external measure of success. That is all fleeting. The real reward lies in the small victories, the moments you feel connected, present, and fulfilled in the pursuit itself. Let me ask you, how many of us have a passion or a dream, but we keep pushing it aside because we tell ourselves it's not practical, or that we just don't have the time? We can do it one day when things calm down or when we're more financially stable. But what I've learned is that life doesn't wait. The time you're spending waiting is the time you could be living out your passion in small, meaningful ways. I understand it's not easy. Chasing a passion can be incredibly difficult. There are times when it feels like you're not making any progress, when you wonder why you're putting in all this effort for something that doesn't seem to be paying off. I've been there, but here's the thing. Those tough moments, they're the ones that shape you. Those moments when you're unsure if it's worth it, when you're exhausted, or even when you feel like you're not good enough. Those are the moments that will define your story. And the beauty lies in sticking with it, not because the outcome is guaranteed, but because of what it teaches you along the way. Think about it for a second. Whether you're working towards a personal goal or a professional one, what would your life look like if you simply focused on enjoying the process instead of obsessing over an outcome? What if you started each day with a renewed sense of purpose, not because there's a big finish line ahead, but because the journey itself is worth the effort? This shift in mindset can open doors to so many possibilities, because when we stop focusing solely on the destination, we start to see the value in the everyday moments that lead us there. I know it's easy to look at someone's success, like Harvey's or anyone else you admire, and think they must have had some secret. But the truth is, they don't have anything special that you don't. They simply decided to show up day after day. They found a way to be consistent, and over time, consistency led to greatness. That's what I want you to take away from my story. You don't have to run 100 miles or climb 1,000,000 feet of vertical gain or achieve some massive goal to find fulfillment. The value isn't in the result. It's in the persistence. It's in the little daily actions that slowly but surely build the life you want to live. And sometimes it's not even about getting to a final goal at all. It's about embracing the fact that the experience of pursuing something that excites you, challenges you, and sometimes even frustrates you. That's where the growth is. That's where the magic happens. So whatever it is that you've been putting off, whether it's writing a book, learning a language, starting a business, or even just taking time to nurture a relationship, don't wait for the perfect moment. Start today. You don't have to have all the answers or know exactly where you're headed. All you need is the courage to begin and the consistency to keep showing up. The process isn't always glamorous. There will be days when you're tired, when progress feels slow, or when you start questioning if it's worth it. But I promise you, the beauty is in the grind. It is every small step forward, and when you look back on your journey, you'll realize that the path you've walked, the experiences, the challenges, the people you've met along the way, that's where the real reward is. So don't wait for the perfect moment. Make today the first step in your journey. You probably won't be climbing a mountain, but when you do see them, remember your passion. And when you do, remember, it's not the destination that matters. It's the person you become in the process. Thank you.